Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast channel. This is Jed. This is Jed. I am Jed. This is me. I am he. And we are reading the Socrates and Jesus book, A Dialogue in Heaven. And oh my God, what a banger it was last time. Because last time we got, oh my goodness. We got expressed in black and white what happens when we die. Now, we have been getting clues along the way leading up to where we are now, but I think I need to put more volume there. Oh, that's better. That's much better. Okay, I think we're good with this. For instance, we have already tackled the idea that we all get to experience the brilliant light of being when we die. But to the level to which we have removed any false image of the self that we have identified with, and to the level to which we have developed an understanding of this brilliant light of being, corresponds to the depth to which we get to experience it. In other words, to the level to which we recognize it as ourself. It's our own mind. We're experiencing ourself in mind. That's the brilliant light of being experience. Now, also, it's something that we don't have to wait till we drop dead, because one of the higher goals of the dialectic is to facilitate an experience of that while you're alive, to separate your soul or collect yourself together, self in relation to self, which is an expression from the dialectic, out of your body. So to therefore die before they bury you, because the separation of your soul from your physical body is death. But nevertheless, while we can die many times before we are buried or drop dead, we all experience that when we die. And to the level to which you can, to quote the text, endure that experience is the level of your being that you end up with in your reincarnation. Isn't that neat? So last time we added to that. Prior to yesterday, we saw that one of the fundamental reasons we reincarnate altogether is so that we can recognize the ultimate beauty of reality itself as ourselves. We don't want to see ourselves as different from beauty itself. And of course, this is the love part of philosophia. Philos means love, and Sophia is wisdom, or the new subject which we've coined here, philodianoia, the love of understanding. The love aspect is that you seek it. Your soul seeks to unify with beauty itself, to join with it, to see it as yourself, to see yourself in it, to see it as a reflection of self, which of course we recognize in relationships. There's a beautiful person, soul, who you want to be with and see yourself in and understand. Hey, welcome to the chat. W28. What a weird username. How do you pronounce that? Wittazahima. Welcome, Wittazahima. Welcome. And of course, romantic sentiment is that very desire. I want to join with you, baby, forever, completely, even without clothes getting in the way, until the stars fall out of the sky. So, thanks for the follow. And of course, that's the romantic sentiment, is that expression of our soul's desire for union with beauty, which, according to the text that we've been reading, compels us to reincarnate. If we all experience that brilliant light of being upon death, our soul decides, I'm going to go around again so that I can recognize it as myself. Now, also, last time we have, let's bring it up, added to this idea that Having had a glimpse of of that shining reality, one descends to experience the consequences of identifying with the thoughts, images, and experiences that have marked our former existence. In other words, if you don't do that, if you don't purify yourself from your false image of yourself, the identification with your thoughts, your images, your experiences, if you don't remove that identification because it's not you, then not only will you not recognize that brilliant light of being as yourself, heard of these guys, but you will have to play out the consequences of that. So in other words, you get kicked back out into another reincarnation. Hell isn't actually a dimension of reality, but we do suffer the consequences of living that life of injustice. Why is it injustice? Well, you're being unjust to yourself. By having this mask that you're identifying with, you are accepting an injustice, an insult towards yourself that you suffered in childhood and spent your life identifying with. Not only that, it's the root cause of your injustice towards others. That injustice we suffer in childhood when we were seeking our logos or seeking the understanding. We accept an insult to ourselves, but we're angry about that. It's bizarre to me how Jesus never wanted to start a religion, but instead to tell the truth about what life is. Exactly. So in the text, we have been covering that. We are about 148 pages through so far. And what we have seen is there is a very stark difference between what Jesus was saying that we can see in the Gospel of Mark, which was copied by Luke and Matthew, and also the Gnostic Gospels that were uncovered in the 60s in Egypt that were buried by the church. But we have the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of James we've been looking at, which paint a very different story of what Jesus was saying and doing. In particular, he was saying, hey, you guys better understand the parables, which you can only do by unpacking analogy, because it's through that understanding that you can awaken a state of mind that I call heaven. It's not a place in the clouds, but a state of mind. And of course, referring to a kingdom of God, which we might recognize as the self, which is beyond even the greatest state of mind of being. Now, Paul, of course, didn't like any of that because he was a fuckhead. He was someone who killed people for fun, killed Christians for fun, and he just said, I am appointed the apostle by God, placing himself either equal to or above Jesus. And he flipped it completely and said, not only can you not understand, but if you have a book, well, the church went on to say, if you have a book, the Bible that you're supposed to be living by, we will kill you. And it's going to be written in a language you can't even read. So in other words, you just have to have blind, belief-based obedience to dear leader. That's what will save you. That's faith. So anyone who accepts that is going to be in conflict within themselves and as they function to others. Because to accept that faith or to believe something that is disproven or unprovable, how can you prove that Mary was a virgin, etc.? Means that not only are you accepting that crazy ass belief, you also have to stomach the pill that irrationality is the height of reason, because it's an irrational belief. It's an absurd belief. So that causes a conflict within yourself, and of course what we do within ourselves we do to others as well. So the cause of human suffering over countless years has been nothing other than that internal state of conflict caused by belief as a cognitive function instead of understanding manifesting globally. Whether it be Netanyahu saying, oh, I believe that we are the chosen people, so I can't show an understanding as to why it's good to genocide people, but I can say my belief says so. George Bush saying the same thing to justify killing 1 million innocent Iraqis, the Crusades, etc., etc. In other words, the veneration or pedestalization of your own personal bullshit-ass beliefs by saying it's not just what I think from my mummy and daddy, which is where we get them, but God says so. That's religion. Religion means to be bound by a saving belief. That's what the word religious means. Or, of course, politicians. Trump can't show an understanding why defunding pediatric care, or removing Meals on Wheels, or increasing the cost of living, or helps people, but he can say, I believe it to be the case. That's the nature of belief. Belief is always in opposition to understanding, because, hey, if you understand something, you don't have to believe the leader. Feels like Netanyahu's doing some sort of human sacrifice. Exactly, yes. And because that's the only way that belief can function. You can't believe yourself into designing a new computer. You can't believe yourself into knowing how to fly a plane. You need to understand how a computer works and have knowledge of it as a whole. Same thing for flying a plane. Same thing for every other profession on the planet except for 3. Clergy, they don't have to understand shit. They just believe it. So because of the irrational age or level of development we're in as a species, we allow that to be a profession. And what do you know? All they've done is manipulate belief to amass wealth and kill millions of innocent people. And of course, another way of venerating your own beliefs when you don't have to demonstrate understanding is politicians. There is no universal, understandable paradigm of what a just society is. Well, there is. That's the logos that we are learning. But they don't have to demonstrate anything. They just say, well, I believe that immigrants should be thrown into concentration camps. All that kind of terrible, terrible abuse. So you can't understand. You need understand to actually improve a computer, improve an engine, improve human life, improve a soul. But of course, because belief is in opposition to understanding, clergy or religious people or religious authorities or politicians can't actually help anything, and they can't solve problems. All they can do is hurt and murder. That's all they can do. So, because they don't have actual understanding or knowledge of the whole, which you gain through understanding, but is a different cognitive function, what we are doing is learning an understanding of understanding itself. That's the logos, which prepares our soul for the direct experience of the brilliant light of being that we're talking about. That's the whole of everything, or the logos, the rational or the intelligible principle of reality experienced all at once. That's knowledge. You can't have that with belief. In fact, what we're seeing is you specifically have to remove your beliefs. Otherwise, you will reject that experience because you will believe you are something other than it. You will fear losing yourself as a result of identifying with the thoughts, images, and experiences and beliefs that you've identified with in your life. So, because belief can never have understanding, it's in opposition to it. That's why the Nazis always go after the thinkers first. They are the ones that are sent to the concentration camps, the ones that are thinking for themselves. And they're trying to, like Trump's trying to defund the educational system right now, etc. They have to take a surrogate for what it means to be a knower or a good believer. Murder or exile or some sort of attack against those who are not within the clan of the belief. So that's all they can do. So the one who kills the most is the most bestest believer. Netanyahu, Trump, etc. Sadism. So sadism is nothing other than human beings operating out of the cognitive function of belief, who have to take as a surrogate for knowledge, hurting people, because that's all belief can do. Sadism. That's why you see Netanyahu talk about being a good Jew with a smirk on his face because he knows he's fucking lying. They all know he's lying. That's part of the game. You lie to yourself. You lie to others and you accept the lie. Most religious people look around and they know that half of the shit that they believe is a lie. They know that they're all lying. Some things they know, they don't, but that's part of it. So what we've also seen is, hey, if you don't do that, you will be, as we're talking about, entrenched in beliefs and identifying with belief, causing that internal conflict within your own understanding and your soul's own desire for knowledge and development. And as we said, you can only do harm to others. The worst kind of injustice is to feel self-righteous or feel justified in passing off belief as knowing to others. That's the child abuse nature of religion. Or anyone who says, hey, just believe me, bro. Hang on a second. No, I need to understand how to fix an engine. I want to be a mechanic. Nah, just believe me. But no, I need to understand why the gasket goes here. Nah. Anyone who says that is a liar and a grifter. But also, you will have to suffer the consequences of that injustice. Not only will you not be able to endure the brilliant light of being, and therefore your own level of intelligence will be very shallow, because that's intelligence itself. And the degree to which, according to the book we're reading, the degree to which, and of course, many other books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead and so on, to the degree to which you can endure that brilliant light of being is the level to which you are intelligent, because that's mind itself, intelligence itself. It's also the good, or the idea or experience of the good. Not a concept, idea with a capital I, because it has its own existence. So, and we can see that also in our current world. The most intelligent people are also the most caring. They're also the most rational. And they are also the closest or the most able to participate in intelligence itself. While belief is divisive, my group against your group, it's always picking teams, and it's always us against you, left against right, Christians against Protestants, Jews against Palestinians, etc., etc. Understanding isn't. People who are intelligent see the exact same principles as all other intelligent people. It's inclusive, anyone can participate, and to the degree that you can participate in mind or the logos, that's the level to which you are a good soul. Same thing applies in our current life, because we can develop through understanding to intelligence, including an experience of pure being in this lifetime, but also after we die. So that your negative idea of self, your identification with thoughts, images, beliefs, and experiences cause a diminished kind of being that you'll have to play out in your next reincarnation. To the degree you have freed yourself from it and developed an understanding of being, well, you're going to be a better soul. Now, ultimately, we want to free ourselves from having to reincarnate into the physical world by finishing our work here. So, while there is no literal hell, hell is earth. As we see, there is countless injustices being suffered by innocent people every second of every minute of every day on earth. That's fucking terrible, but there is a kind of justice if we have to play out the implications of the injustice we do in our current life. But that's not justice unless it also includes a possibility of change. There needs to be an ability to learn. That's what we're doing on this channel. Learning the logos, but of course the logos will only get you so far until you bump up against the pathologos. It's your pathologos, or sick reasoning, your sick belief, the false idea of the self, that has to surface. Because that's why we've been reincarnated. We weren't able to see ourselves as pure being, and instead we were identifying with injustice, with thoughts, images, and experiences. So we're here to surface that false idea of the self and solve it. Meaning, as you seek excellence, as you seek to learn the logos and master the use of the logos, the dialectic, you will bump up against your pathologos. In other words, you can reason to a certain level and then you can reason no further. You'll start getting indignant. You'll start getting frustrated. You'll start attacking people. You'll want to give up. You'll undermine your own insights. You'll call yourself a bad noodle or a small bean. I can't do it, I'm just a small bean. I can't do it, I'm just a bad noodle. You'll project your issues onto other people. And you'll feel like you've been slighted by someone who's just helping you reason and understand. And as a result, to get payback, you'll do the very thing you think they're doing to you that you're projected. That projection is your problem. So while you think the world does it, you also think it's the model of excellence because you suffered it from your first teachers when they appeared most excellent and loving and caring. So giving us the expression projection, we project our problem on others, but also the expression cry bully. You're crying because you feel like you're being the one who's being slighted, but you're also bullying because you do the very thing back to that person. That's our pathologos, which means you have to be doing both activities. You have to be reading a book like this one, like any of the books written by a master of the logos. Just like you want to become a mechanic, you have to read a book written by a master mechanic. So the works of Pierre Grimes, like this one, which is a fantastic book that reflects the logos, or the Balboa translations of Plato, they're another good ones. But you also have to recognize when you get into that negative state of mind where you give up, undermine yourself, etc. Then just as we use the text itself, not our own opinions, not our own beliefs, we use the text itself without interpretation as the material to piece together an understanding of the logos, which we then practice and verify for ourselves. So too, we take those thoughts that come up in our distractions, tangents, fantasies, blocks, as the material themselves without interpretation to solve the second puzzle. Those are the two puzzles we're here to solve. Our false image of the self, the pathologos, and the true nature of the self, the logos. The content of the book for the logos, the content of your negative self-talk and feeling states, that's the material you use to find your problem. And you have to be doing both. You can't surface a problem unless you seek excellence in the logos. And you can't reach excellence in the logos unless you've removed your problem. And that very principle plays out in death too. You can't escape the cycle of reincarnation into hell, Hades, the planet Earth, or physical reincarnation with ignorance and problems and injustice. You can't escape that prison unless you are able to remove your false image of the self, allowing you to fully participate in the brilliant light of being, but also to go through it. In other words, hopefully you've learned and nurtured, that's the two words in green, this ability to reason and ask questions, understand everything, especially the most beautiful things. So the ideal relationship, can you even share logos with the most beautiful girl in the world? Such that when you encounter beauty itself, the very thing that that girl was participating in that made her seem so beautiful, the logos. When you encounter beauty itself, the brilliant light of being upon death, can you also reason about it and realize, even though it's the most profound thing, and even though I've removed my false images of myself such that I can recognize it as pure consciousness, me, mind itself, I can still ask, hang on a second, what's experiencing it? Well, you can't imagine a greater experience, because literally it's the greatest positive descriptors, the greatest superlatives that describe it. You can still reason about its necessary cause. Therefore, it's understanding that takes us out of the prison of, or out of the chains of our problems in our world, but also out of the prison of reincarnation, to quote Socrates from the Phaedo. Understanding is the ticket. In particular, what is understanding? It's participating in the logos. What's that activity? The dialectic. The dialectic is the art we're here to master. So, this is all from the book, by the way. This book fucking bangs. How many other books can tell you exactly what's going to happen when you die? And the repercussions in your reincarnation as a result of it. And what you ought to be doing here so that you can escape hell, escape another reincarnation, and go on to a higher level of existence. How many other books? If there are other ones, they're not written as clearly as this one. Let me check in with chat. I totally agree and resonate with hell in earth right now. Yes. Being guilty with my humanly desires, and it feels a separation from who we really are, divine beings. Right, so we want to look at where the idea of guilt comes from as well, because part of, for example, what we're doing is if we recognize we're here to learn, specifically learn about the self and learn about the false idea of the self, so it's the same activity, the dialectic, step by step reason, reflection on causes to find the nature of either what you really, really want, your highest excellence, mind, self, reality, or what you really, really want to understand and remove, your problems, the root cause of your problems being your false idea of the self. That's just learning. And the better you master the art of dialectic, the better you can do it. And if you can find people to talk to, even better. You can apply that dialectic to your dreams. That's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Because your dreams reflect those very two issues. Those are the two things you can talk about as a human being. How far are you along the logos to your highest excellence, self? And how far are you from removing the false idea of the self, freeing yourself from your problems? Now, you know what doesn't help? Guilt. The idea of sin. You've got a problem because you're a bad person. You are a sinner. You're a woman, and women are less than men. You're an immigrant. Oh, they're the worst. You're not as good as Jesus. You're born the wrong religion, any of that shit. Why? Because we're here to discover the true nobility and divine nature of the self. As you say, divine beings. Which means any undermining of yourself is false. But also, it doesn't help learning. I want to encourage people to reflect. We want problems. Everyone has problems. Everyone has blind spots. You're supposed to. If we didn't have problems and blind spots, we would lack the conditions to do what we're here to do as human beings. Discover our false belief. So what we're learning to do is use the dialectic to show that there's no such thing as hell. The idea of punishment and sin is harmful and unjust. And instead, use a dialectic to show that learning solves problems, allows us to reflect on the cause of our excellence or the cause of our problems, allowing us to solve problems. And let's see if we can nail down that practice, so much so that we can do it at all times, which is a kind of learning and nurture that you can take with you. You can't take your Bugattis, you can't take your bank account with you when you die, but you may be able to take what you've learned and nurtured into your soul. That's the significance of the dialectic. So, given all that, like how fucking awesome is this book? Hey, by the way, this is what happens when you die. In fact, let's find the earlier section to the book as well, where it says endure. That's the key word. Endure. Back. What? Upon death, all experience that most brilliant light of being. To the degree one is able to endure that divine luminosity, to that very degree there is a corresponding profound depth or shallowness to one's way of being. So, where can I find the book? You can buy it, or there's a link to the PDF online. And if you want to get a notification when we go live, then you can join the Discord, and you can also share thoughts and insights and memes with others in the community if you join the Discord as well. So you can find links below. And all of the past episodes I post on YouTube, and you can find a link to that as well. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
Right, that's the primary purpose of Peanuts, and the primary purpose of the Discord is to help connect you with fellow adventurers, because this is the hero's journey. This is the archetype. All other hero's journeys in video games and stories are a mythological representation of what we're doing here. To a degree, to whatever degree the author has insight. Now, what we've been looking at recently is what have been the highest examples of heroes. So far, we've got Hercules, considered to be the greatest hero. We've got Achilles, considered to be the archetype hero for all people. And the next one we're about to look at is Penelope, the ideal woman. But before we do that, let's jump back into this. Because we also want to understand, well, how does being the greatest hero relate to our own state of mind and way of being? But also whether or not we can reincarnate into a shitty existence or a better one. So upon death, there's that brilliant light of being. To the degree that you can endure that divine luminosity, that's that level to which your own state of being is going to be good or bad. In that encounter, you realize that what has blocked you from a more profound experience was your own fear that you would be extinguished in that awesome and powerful presence of luminosity. What's actually being extinguished is your false image of yourself, if this divine luminosity is self-experiencing self as mind. It's still not the self, it's still a reflection of the self, but it's the highest experience or reflection of the self. Which means the self that experiences it has to be beyond experience. That's the big puzzle. If the goal is to know the self, know thyself, and the reflection of self in divine luminosity is the greatest experience, the self can't be itself an experience. Which makes sense because, well, if it was an experience, then it would get in the way of other experiences, wouldn't it? If the self was green, you couldn't wait. Yeah, if the self was green, you couldn't see blue because you'd only see purple, because that green would be interfering with any blue. Okay, I don't think I have the right colors, but you get the idea. In other words, it has to be pure of experience for it to be able to have the full range of experiences that you have as a soul, including the highest. So, we want to get rid of that thing that we are afraid we're going to lose, because you will lose it, because it's not real. There is something that keeps your problem alive, keeps you identified with the main character in your dreams and your fantasies and your tangents. It's not being, because being is this reality, non-being. Therefore, there is a kind of justice in the universe for you having your problems because it keeps your problems alive, giving you the conditions to say, hey, I fucking hate being in a problem. It sucks always sabotaging myself. Self-sabotage and these self-fulfilling negative prophecies that I tell myself. I'm repeating the same bullshit I had experienced in childhood again and again, same blind spots over and over again. That sucks. It's supposed to suck. And yes, it's supposed to repeat. Because it repeats, you can identify it's a pattern. If it's a pattern, there is an intelligibility behind it. If there's an intelligibility behind it, it's understandable. If it's understandable, you can trace it back to its root cause. If you can understand that and its root cause, you can address that root cause and remove it. In other words, the fact that your problem continues the way it does, with all of its aspects, in a repeating way, blocking you from living a life where you can get everything you want without having to address your problem, is justice. And it means problems are in principle solvable, meaning no need for punishment on a cosmic level. You just can't solve that problem. That kind of ignorance can't be removed with wisdom. No, you just have to torture that baby in a lake of fire. Same thing, whether it be genociding the Palestinians or the concentration camps Trump is setting up for people he doesn't like or people who criticize his authority, or whether it just be prisons, prison systems, or even bad grades. Any sort of punishment is fucked. In principle. Why? Doesn't solve problems, but what it does do, it teaches you to try not to get caught, which is irrational because we want to find our problems. That's literally what we're here for. So, as a dialectician, or someone practicing the art we're here to do, the meaning of life for all human beings, we want to do the opposite. We want to create the ideal conditions for self-reflection, which means we have to recognize that there's never any punishment or blame, ever, or guilt. And that same principle applies to every moment as it does reincarnation. Every moment there is the potential to experience the divine luminosity of ultimate reality. Because it's eternal, it's outside of time. So, the two activities, purifying the false, removing the pathologos, and perfecting our understanding of the logos. So, isn't that neat? We understand what happens when we die and what happens after that. And therefore, we can come to a conclusion. Now, it's just a hypothesis. It is a rational hypothesis. There is a beauty to the reason. There are many different dialectics that we have done so far, coming to the same conclusion. The meaning of life is just the mastery of the dialectic, which has those two applications, removing the false, perfecting the true, removing pseudo-excellence, reaching excellence, etc. But it is still a hypothesis, meaning you have to actually apply it for yourself to verify it. But because it's the logos, it is knowable. You can verify this, what we're reading about the brilliant light of being, by experiencing it. So it's not a belief, which is neat because, we just saw belief is the cause of our human problems. So isn't that neat? I think it's neat to know the meaning of life and to know what happens when you die. But my daddy says nobody knows that. But my preacher or minister or imam or rabbi says nobody knows the meaning of life. You just have to believe the guy in the funny hat. Or the guy who lived 5,000 years ago. The Bronze Age farmer who knew shit all. Nope, don't have to believe anyone. That's good. So with all that in mind, understanding our purpose as a human being, the difficulties that we have to overcome, our pathologos, and our excellence that we are here to overcome through understanding and verification, through experience, we can understand why Hercules and Achilles are ideal heroes. So here we go. After we have a glimpse of the shining reality, one descends to experience the consequences of identifying with the thoughts, images, and experiences that marked one's former existence. What if, again, it's an if. You have to verify it for yourself. What if what is passed on in the next reincarnation is only what one has learned and nurtured? If that is all, then tell me what happens to all the mistakes, or what believers might call sin, that each soul carries along with it. Could the power of those deeds carry on until they're dissipated? Until nobody knows about Trump anymore? All the injustices that have been the implications of his childhood beliefs, venerated in laws or the government, and also venerated because, he recognizes that religious people can be manipulated because they reject understanding to be a believer. So, do we suffer the consequences of that? And if we finally wake up to our purpose, to understand the cause of human problems is the belief in pathologos, and to understand that we need to demand an understanding and mastery of the logos for every spiritual or political leader, then we can stop this disgusting pathologos from causing the extinction of all life, and we can turn everything around. If we do that, then eventually in the future, once we've understood the implications of Trump's ignorance, his name will be gone and flutter away, dissipated like a shadow. No one will give two shits about Donald Trump anymore. Eventually, if we address the logos and pathologos. Therefore, if so, the consequences and suffering and the rewards for good deeds are carried into the next world, where what we call shades, again, non-being keeps your mask, ego, false identification with self together. Shades, shadows, play out their existence in the house of Hades. So we can see, as Chatter quite rightly said himself or herself, the house of Hades is Earth. So in other words, down here, so each soul brings along with it the conditions for its own hell. And you can imagine that. Imagine being caught in a problem you can't see through, and all of your friends trying to reason you through it. You just pisses you off because you're blocked by the pathologos from the logos. You're blocked by your irrational, unsuspected false beliefs. They're unsuspected because you didn't put words on them when you were a kid. It was too dangerous in that scene with your parents or parental surrogates. That's why we have to go back and put words on it. Words are our solution, and words are the clues that allow us to trace it back, which is why we are learning to read without putting our own words in. And when we do a dialectic with another person, we ask questions. We don't give them the words. They're logos. Therefore, blah, 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 blah. Conditions for your own hell. There is no hell, just an illusion that is created by each soul as it passes on to its next reincarnation. Right, so it's irritating to have all these people say, hey, you obviously have this problem, but you can't see it. What a hellish world to be in. And to be convinced that everyone is slighting you in the way that you feel they're slighting you when actually you are doing it to them. That's why you have to be interested in understanding the dialectic, understanding what's most meaningful. You need to have your nose in a book like this one. But also you have to be doing the second activity. When you do face a block, talk to a friend, a dialect, someone who's also in the game, so you can jot down the clues of your that negative state of mind that blocks you from seeing, that causes your problems over and over again, your blind spot. And if it's someone who you enjoy the company of, every single moment can be a doorway to the logos or pathologos. So you can move quickly to your enlightenment. As Socrates says, move like a thief, a rogue class. Entirely possible, because the dialectic you can do at all times, any activity you engage in, so long as it's not gossip or something that has no reason to it, like belief or religion. Music, mathematics, this kind of a book, dream analysis. If it's intelligible, if there's a rational structure, has a hierarchical set of parts, it's going to reflect the logos, because the logos is the paradigm. Meaning you can apply the dialectic, because the dialectic is just the structure and activity of the logos. So you can do it at all times, which is neat. So, given that, we have this question of Achilles. Because Achilles was said to be the worst person who turned the ship around and became a hero. So he believed that he was favored by the gods. Does every family think their parents are the ones that are right? Their family way of being is the right one? Hey, do you know what's good? Of course I do. Where did you learn it? My parents. Or, I just learned it from life experience. Hang on a second. Did you carry a way of being from your upbringing into all your life experiences? Well, I guess so. What makes you think that's the right one? Shut up. That's the pathologos. To believe that your way of being is favored by the gods. And of course, as we have seen, all other problems, all global problems, is just that universalized by saying, hey, it's not just my family way of being that's the chosen way of being. It's God says so. We are the chosen people, says the Jews, says the Muslims, says the Christians, says the Scientologists, says thousands of groups. They can't all be right. At least thousands and thousands minus one are wrong. They can't all be the chosen people. But of course, every child believes that of their parents, meaning there's a moral, ethical imperative for everyone to go through philosophical midwifery. Because otherwise you'll be like Achilles at the start of the book, believing that you are favored by Zeus and that the justice of reality will vindicate whatever way of being you grew up in. Okay, and we have the story of Achilles plotting his revenge, etc. Well, no, I won't dismiss it with etc. We'll go through it, but just before we go through Achilles, before that we had Hercules, who was considered by the gods to be the greatest hero because he was able to exist in the house of Hades while at the same time feasting in heaven with the gods. And so we talked about how, hey, this art of the dialectic, or the logos, can function in time through the dialectic. The ideal functioning in the physical world. Down here, the physical world. Whoops, my pen. P-H-Y-S-I-C-A. Physical world, or the world of becoming, because everything is in change and becoming, growing or decaying. Becoming. That you see through your sense experiences, so your physical senses. Physical world. The world of becoming, that you see through your physical senses. P-H-Y-S-I-C-A-L. Physical senses. So you can function ideally through the self logos as an activity happening through time. That's the dialectic. But your state of mind can be at the same time apprehending the self logos. Now, self is honorific, like Mr. or Senpai. You can call me Senpai Jed if you're female, I think. It means sexy teacher, if my anime has taught me correctly. Self is an honorific. It refers to being, but also it can apply to what's beyond even being. So the self logos as a whole is that ideal state of mind of the brilliant light of being. So we could call it the spiritual world, because it's the spirit or soul that experiences it. So you can't put it in a test tube. It is consistent with all of the principles in the physical material world. It is the causes and conditions for everything that exists. Everything that you exist is a whole and a part. It's like something and unlike other things. It's same and different. But you can't prove it with your physical senses, because the physical senses apply here. It's non-physical in principle. Just because you can't put it in a test tube, it doesn't mean it's not real. It's quite the opposite. So the spiritual world, so that's just in case you're an Aristotelian or a materialist. The spiritual world, or the world of being, because it is eternal being, and you see it through the sixth sense called ousia. Ousia is the eye of the soul that can turn around and see itself. Ousia. So, Hercules can therefore have this heaven state of being as his state of mind while functioning in the physical world through the dialectic, which is of course what we want to do. That's when you want the best state of mind and the best functioning. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
And like a peanut, we are putting an end to murder and punishment and injustice and nourishing the soul. Thank you, Emma. But of course, if we have both, we have to ask the question, hang on a second, what is it that has a state of mind? If you have something, that's not you. And as we've just been reading, we best be careful not to identify with anything that's not you. That includes even the greatest experience. There is still someone having the experience. Of course, that's the problem Taoists face. That's the yin-yang one. As this is the greatest experience and you can't imagine anything more, you would say, well, that's the end. That's me. And even in that experience, you recognize, oh my God, that's me. How could I have forgotten? That's right. It's a reflection of you in experience. There is still something having that experience. And because we have metaphysics, which is simply understanding the qualities of this, beauty itself, self-beauty, self-justice, remember it's honorific, self-whole, self-part, self-same, self-different, excellence, self-excellence, means there are all these aspects or qualities that exist as a oneness, meaning there has to be some cause for those. There needs to be a logos for it to be able to be understood and recognized. But of course, there has to be a principle of one for there to be all of those things together as a unity or oneness. So again, you can only see that through understanding, because this is the greatest experience. You can't imagine a better experience. That's the problem with Taoism, which is why every spiritual tradition needs the logos, needs understanding. Just like every politician better have an experience of this as the model of justice, and better have an understanding of it as well, just as the doctor has to have an idea of the ideal body and an understanding of the parts. Same thing for a mechanic with an engine, same thing for a politician. which means all of the fuckhead politicians who do not have that, but take their beliefs, which is the cause of all human problems, and pretend just because they believe it, it's true. And then all they do is spend their life looking for the conditions to play out their bullshit injustice beliefs with impunity. That's why the worst people are attracted to kings and clergy, because they are the two professions where you can get away with pretending you are knowing, and they are the two professions where you can, like Trump is doing, enact your injustice with impunity, which is the force behind souls driven by the pathologos. Again, why it's the most important thing we can do in our society, and what our society needs to be geared around is philosophical midwifery. Otherwise, whether it's a billionaire seeking the money to exploit women or enslave people or murder people, or a politician, or someone seeking to be a pope, or even just a petty tyrant at your local 7-Eleven who happens to own the store, sexually harassing the staff members or whatever the fuck, or being a racist to customers or whatever. It's always, always, always the same. Looking for ways of escaping getting caught for your pathologos beliefs, while being able to have the power to inflict them on others, to do the same injustice you suffered to others. Meaning, a just world would be centered around not current capitalism, maximizing profits for the already super wealthy at the expense of all life and the environment, which is a fucked way of setting up our society. A just way would be setting up our society around creating the conditions for everyone to go through philosophical midwifery, which would be the ideal functioning in time from an ideal state of mind. But again, don't even identify with this, meaning there has to be a self. The self logos, or the one self, or the good self, or the logos self, we could call it too, over here, which you experience not through the physical senses where you see the physical world of becoming, not through the sixth sense of ousia where you experience being, which is ousia itself. That's ousia. Ousia is self-referential. So being itself is the nature of ousia. In other words, this dimension doesn't exist because it has space and time. That's down here. Therefore, what gives it its existence is mind. What gives its wholeness is mind turning about upon itself, ousia. So that's mind minding mind. The object being seen, the thing doing the seeing, and the activity of seeing is all the same thing, mind. So, not the physical senses, that's Hercules down here in Hades through the dialectic. Not ousia, that's the state of mind of Hercules feasting in heaven. But the sense through which you recognize, because it's not an experience, the self is question mark. Fuck if I know. But that's what we're after. We want to know, how do you know the self if it's beyond knowing? What do you look for if it's every experience tops out here? That's the big question. So, the self-logos that's independent and transcends the self-logos as an experience of the ideal state of mind and the ideal activity, the dialectic, that would be Hercules. Therefore, the greatest hero. Understanding, being, while knowing the self in some way that we are after. So the ideal hero, Hercules. We also have Achilles, someone who has gone through philosophical midwifery, and dream analysis to go from being the worst person, most entrenched in their beliefs, to then become Hercules-like. That's Achilles. So when the gods were saying the Trojan War was the war to end all wars, because it gave us Achilles. It gave us the model that all human beings can go through, meaning no need for more war. We know what actually solves problems because Achilles went through it. Leading us to where we are now. Okay, so if that's Hercules and Achilles, who's this Penelope? Because Homer's Iliad is about Achilles. The Odyssey is about Odysseus and Penelope. Whoops. This one. This is the one. Dramatic zoom. No, damn it. This one. Okay, so the woman who stands above all others as a model for the ideal woman, just as the just man would be a model for the ideal man. So pick Hercules or Achilles. In one man, Achilles, we have the worst becoming the best. Homer offered a prize. Oh, and in the Odyssey, the gods are not praising Achilles or Odysseus. They're praising Penelope. A lady. Ooh.
Don't be disgusting.
Sorry.
It's a total shit show.
Sorry. Insulting the women on my soundboard with that sound drop.
And I find that very entertaining.
Okay. So Homer offers a prize for us making a case like we did for Hercules being in heaven and hell at the same time. Is there a woman that can become the perfect model for all women to come? We have the worst man becoming the best. Is there an ignorance that's even more powerful than wisdom? Of course not. Because no ignorance can stand the light of wisdom. Therefore, all ignorance can be overcome with learning. You don't have to give up and punish people. So the metaphor I use is dog nanny versus dog whisperer. Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, helps all dogs with problems. And then he was popular whenever he was on TV. And then there was a British knockoff called the Dog Nanny, but she didn't have the wisdom that Caesar Milan had, and so when she couldn't solve a dog's problems, instead of admitting she didn't know, she just killed the dogs. So, fuck you, Dog Nanny. Don't be a dog... Okay, I don't know her personally, so that was a joke, so I'll take that back. But as a principle, as a metaphor, be a dog whisperer, don't be a dog nanny. In other words, it's foolish to punish for a lack of wisdom. The only justification for violence that's being used to oppress the human race is punishment. You deserve to be without a house. You're a poor. And you're poor because you need to be taught a lesson on how to be rich. Pull yourselves up from your bootstraps. Well, we have to murder all the Palestinians and shoot all these children in the head and take their land. Because Hamas. We need to teach you a lesson. Don't fight back against your genocide like Hamas tried to do. Therefore, so it's always the same. Injustice has people looking for excuses, clip-chimping excuses to play out their fascism of their own personal beliefs that they suffered on others with impunity. Looking for an excuse to be a fuckhead. And that's punishment. That's all punishment is. And of course, a lot of people seek a job or an occupation where they have power over others so they can get away with punishing people. And if you've been watching Severance season 1, then that's it. It's obvious, it's a clear allegory for our current education system. capitalist system and religious system. It's very obviously stated in season 1 of Severance, which is a pretty fun watch. Which is injustice, and you better fucking stop it, because you are going to have to suffer all of that shit yourself in your next reincarnation. So stop looking for an excuse to avoid reflecting on your problem you're here to reflect on, and playing out your injustice with impunity on others you have power over. Being it because you are higher up the food chain, I get to oppress women because the fucking sexist patriarchy capitalist system says women are less than men. So just by virtue of me being a man, I can inflict my ignorance on women. Or whether it's because you got money, or whether it's because you got political power, or whether it's because you've convinced people that you speak for God. Stop it. Or rather, we need enough people to wake up to the understanding of the root cause of human problems, so we will not tolerate professions that don't have understanding of a model that's used to always benefit not yourself, Trump, Netanyahu, Pope, evangelist, whoever the fuck. Always, always, always the subject. If the doctor ever acts for his own personal interests, he will lose his license. Same thing with the mechanic, same thing with the pilot. They always have to use their model and understanding to care for their participants, for those who they have leadership over. The only professions you don't have to do that is, of course, king and clergy, politicians and priests, until we wake up and realize that's the cause of all human problems and suffering. Maybe we should look for something a bit better. I mean, you don't have to look hard, it's just understanding. That's it. Simple. Oh, and our parents is another one. They get to pretend to be king priest of the house. So, only when you give up and say, well, I can't fix them, they're unfixable, then you can justify teaching a lesson through inflicting suffering, which is fucked, because all it does is it creates a particular kind of suffering that dominates the soul. So it makes them feel shit. It deprives them of the freedom. That's also shit. And freedom to discover the roots of their folly, so they don't learn anything. So it's a lose, 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 lose. Punishment is always fucked. Of course, all they do learn is to, again, seek a position of power where they can't get caught. Epstein files. And seek where they can inflict their own problems on others. Trump much? Elon Musk much? Netanyahu much? So, again, no punishment, always understanding. Says the book, because this book bangs. None of this is my opinions, it's just piecing together the pieces of the book. So, Jesus wants to know, hang on a second, if there's Hades in Homer, does that mean he thinks hell exists? We've gone through that. It's just Earth and reincarnation. Okay, so human problems are our own core personal pathologos beliefs intertwined with our beliefs about God. Be more specific. Hello, Pally. Welcome. We are reading a book called Socrates and Jesus, A Dialogue in Heaven. The book that bangs so much, even your grandkids will have CTE. Perhaps the best book ever written. It's awesome. And feel free to ask more questions as we go if you're into it. If you want to understand yourself, understand the meaning of life, what you need to do to reach your highest excellence, and if you want to also learn what it means how to solve your problems, because those are the two things we can do on planet Earth. Address your problems, and no one wants problems, right? And reach your excellence. And don't we want to be our happiest, best selves? So it's the two things you're motivated to do as a human being. We're learning how to do it. It's the same art. So it's not like about religion. Well, it's understanding what religion is. Because the root cause, well, I'm just summarizing the book so far. We're about 60 episodes in. So again, don't believe anything I say, but I'm going to give you a review because you're new and stuff. But you can find the previous episodes on YouTube. So if, like we're seeing here, you have a personal beliefs about yourself that cause your problems, because belief is in opposition to understanding. So your root problems have a root cause that you can understand. So all your problems are solvable. And it's a unsuspected belief that you carry about yourself that you project onto the world. So beliefs are the cause of your problems. Now, there are some people who go a bit one step further and say, it's not just my belief about what is real and good and loving from my parents that's real. God says so too. That's religion. Or society says, the law says it's the case. So whether you're projecting your personal beliefs onto God or onto the laws, it's just a projection of your own personal beliefs, which is the cause of all human suffering and war and injustice. But the other side of that is you can understand it, and you can remove it through understanding. So we're understanding what understanding is, and we're understanding the process of surfacing our own unsuspected, because we didn't put words on it, we don't know what they are, our own unsuspected false beliefs that's the cause of our own suffering, problems, and injustice. Not just in this life, but also in your next reincarnation. Because the soul will bring with it into your next incarnation the conditions for your own hell. The problems and the injustices, what you've learned and nurtured, any identification with thoughts, images, experiences, that's not you. Can't be you, because you're having the thoughts. So, any false identification with your personal belief. No, Stoicism is simply what we are doing, but no spirituality. That's what Stoicism is. In other words, what we're talking about, here, let me find a picture on the board. Looking for 3 circles. Should have come across one by now. Look how much work we've done. We're so smart. Looking for 3 circles. Here we go. So, our physical existence is in the physical world of becoming. That's down here. Red. Down here. It's through our senses that we can get images, beliefs, opinions, which again, we don't want to identify with. That's the cause of our problems individually and collectively through religion and politics. Because those are 2 professions where you don't have to have understanding. You can just say, I believe it, so it's true. But what we are doing here is understanding the principles and causes for our physical world of becoming and understanding itself. That's the world of being. You can experience it directly, not through your physical senses, but through the sense called ousia. Your mind can turn around and know itself, or separate from the body, or death. In death you experience it as well. That's the brilliant light of being. Philosophy is studying of this realm, because you can know it directly, and also you can understand it. The understanding of it is metaphysics. By the way, this is not what you're going to learn in school. This is from Socrates. We killed Socrates before he was able to sufficiently teach Plato, and Plato had Aristotle as his student, and Aristotle drew a line here. There is no realm of being. There is no metaphysics. Theology is just the personification of metaphysics. All of the things like beauty, justice, excellence, whole, part, same, different, all of these things that are the building blocks of perception, the building blocks of reality, the building blocks of understanding. He says that doesn't exist. There's just the physical world. I do like the words. I like the word virtue and justice and things, but I'm going to put a line under here. That's Stoicism. That's what you learn at school. So we are discovering the true nature of philosophy on this channel. So we do have a translation of Plato, where the first translation in like 1,000 years where we can actually read the real words, which has Plato talking about the realm of being. The aspects of it is called the eidos. At school, they tell you it's forms. That's bullshit. It's not form. It sounds like it's a thing. Eidos. We study that and we apply the dialectic to understand it as a preparation to experience it. So you develop an understanding of it, which is the dialectic. You verify that understanding in direct experience, that's knowledge. The experience and the understanding together, that's wisdom. The Greek word for wisdom is Sophia. Because your soul seeks it and it's intensely beautiful, its beauty itself, once you've had a glimpse of it, you fall in love with it because it's the most beautiful thing. Therefore, Sophia, love of wisdom, that's philosophy. But of course, that's still a bunch of things. Beauty itself, justice itself, whole and part, they have an existence there. Everything you've seen in the physical world is a whole and a part. Is the same as some things, different from... You've never seen same or different or whole or part with your physical eyes. So that's the movement from... Hey, thanks for the follow. The movement from learning about stuff you're interested in the physical world, but then realizing all of the things you've been using to think, the building blocks of perception, the building blocks of thought, whole, part, same, different. Everything you've seen is like something else, but also unlike it because it's a different thing. Where do they all come from? I've never seen likeness walking down the street, giving me a high five. I've seen beauty as an adjective, but I've never seen beauty itself. That's the movement from Aristotle, or materialism, or Stoicism, to Plato. Because you can actually understand those things and experience it. That's knowledge. Your soul experiencing the brilliant light of being. As you die, you get to experience that. But if you've identified with any beliefs or images or opinions about yourself, you are going to be confused and reject that, and you're going to reincarnate and play out a life based on what you've identified with. So the justice or the injustice you've played out in your life, you get to experience the other side of it. So in other words, you create your conditions for your own hell on earth. If you haven't gone through the process of philosophical midwifery, which is the use of the dialectic or understanding to surface and remove your false beliefs that you identify with. If you do that, you're free of your problems. But then you're more able to do Platonic philosophy and understand the realm of being. But then eventually you're going to have to ask the question, hang on a second, what caused being? Or if I get to experience it as the brilliant light of being, what's experiencing it? That's the movement from being to the self, or from Plato to Socrates. So we have Socrates who reaches the self, or know thyself. That's the goal. That's the meaning of life. To develop a mastery of the dialectic, the logos, to remove what's false, to perfect what's true, to take understanding and knowing together, to reach beyond the brilliant light of being, go through the brilliant light of being as a doorway to know the self. Giving us the ideal, how is that belief called? Oh, pathologos means false, the fundamental false belief about yourself that's the cause of your problems. That's the pathologos. Logos is the name for the understandable, knowable order of reality. The fact that we can climb this ladder back up to the self. That's the logos. Pretty neat. So Hercules is someone who is existing as a state of mind in being, which is eternity, which is everything all at once. So his state of mind is the highest. So he's feasting with the gods in heaven. Why? Because theology isn't an actual Zeus with a lightning bolt in the sky and causing rain by pissing too hard. No. If you take theology, if you take stories about the gods literally, you are called a barbarian. You study, teach philosophy. Oh, we're just reading the book. This is just all in the book. All we're doing is just reading the book without projecting our own beliefs onto it. Because this book bangs. I'm just summarizing what we've been doing over. So don't believe any of this. This is just an introduction. You have to see it for yourself and see why it works and stuff. But if you stick around, you'll get there. It's the meaning of life, after all. To put it bluntly. So Hercules is considered to be the greatest hero, is what we've read. This is where we are in the book. Are you religious? Well, no, that would be insane. We've just said that the root cause of human problems are beliefs. Religion is a word to mean bound by a belief. Instead of saying, like, you know how everyone has their own family beliefs? You ever, like, slept over at your friend's house and their family is kind of weird and their house... Yeah, exactly. It's just coping. Their house, they have their own way of being. Maybe they're a bit racist. Maybe they're a bit sexist. But the kids don't think that. They think that their family is the chosen one. Their parents are loving and caring. Everyone thinks that about. That's why they have a yo mama joke. Yo mama is so, don't you speak bad about my mama, she's a saint. What the fuck? Do you think the mum that lives next door is a saint? No, she's an alcoholic. What about the mum that lives across the road? Nah, she's a crazy religious nut job. Then why do you think your parents know everything? That's your pathologos, a blind loyalty to your own parents as the model of excellence and truth. It's fake enlightenment. They appear beautiful and caring, but it's just a fake. It's just they are cosplaying. Religion is just, instead of saying, oh, my family clan is the right beliefs, it's God also says so. That's what religion is. That's why there are thousands of different religions, and they all say, oh, I agree with all of my own beliefs. And everyone different is a heathen, or a infidel, or a goyim, or a heretic, or a woke, or a Antifa. These are all just words that mean you're not in my family clan belief. So that's why religion is the cause of, like, genocides and murder and endless, the pages of human history soaked in blood. Because belief is the cause of human problems, understanding is the solution. It's just that easy. Understanding is good, belief is bad. Yeah, religion was invented for coping, to explain the no. Well, actually, if to give people hope. No, actually, it's worse than that, because Socrates had the logos. He shared with us how we can use our own mind to understand and know mind and know the self. We get guidance from our dreams every night. And there is providence because every moment is a reflection of the logos. Every moment, every thought, every daydream, every fantasy is a potential for a rich insight into the nature of reality. All you got to do is use your mind to look. So the idea that religion is to give people hope is a lie. Didn't need hope. Hope is fucked. Hope's just like prayer. You don't need hope. Understanding can solve a problem. Understanding gives you steps you can follow to your goal. Hope's just crossing your fingers. There is no unknown. Well, the unknown is the self. The unknown is seeing it for yourself. So what happened is, when Socrates was saying this, two things could happen. We could listen to him, and because Socrates had teachers, he had Diotima, a lady who taught him, and Parmenides, and there are lots of people who had this. That's why they call it the perennial philosophy. It was the parent philosophy before modern philosophy, which is not philosophy, it's just opinions. It's just Kant's opinions and Hegel's opinions and Nietzsche's opinions. It's just fucking bullshit opinions. So what happened, instead of listening and continuing our tradition of philosophy, some fuckers came in and said, I want to be in charge. Paul, Emperor Justinian. And they killed the philosophers and they said, you people are stupid. You can't understand and know reality. They lied to you, to us. So here is some bullshit beliefs to help explain what you can't explain. Says who you can't explain it. Not philosophy, not Socrates, not Parmenides. They can explain it. So yeah, that's a lie. The idea that religion was just our stupid caveman brains trying to make sense of what we couldn't understand. Bullshit. It was fuckheads who wanted to silence understanding and be in charge and pretend their stupid ass beliefs from their family are ultimate. They are the chosen people. The Jews are the chosen ones. The Catholics are the chosen ones. The Protestants are the chosen ones. Fuck off. Because they always put themselves in charge. All religion is a pedestalization, a universalization or a sanctification of your own bullshit beliefs, because you're too stupid and lazy to reflect on the very beliefs you have been reincarnated to specifically address. All of this stuff like, well, beliefs give people hope, or beliefs are a good moral compass. They are not good, and they're not moral. They're the exact opposite of morality. They are the cause of injustice and suffering. Yeah, so what we want to do, Pally, is... sorry, I've been a bit harsh. I didn't get much sleep last night, and I was... it's a Sunday morning, so I was out all Saturday night playing music. I'm also a musician. So, so I'm being a bit blunt. But the whole idea of the channel is to read this kick-ass book that's so fun anyway, and to say, hey, look, you don't have to believe anyone. You can understand it. And it's easy. All problems are caused by beliefs. And all problems are caused by beliefs because beliefs are in conflict with understanding. It's beliefs versus understanding. That's it. All beliefs are understandable. Understanding can solve problems. But also you can understand the nature of mind. And it's a lot of fun. It's a kick-ass conversation. It's not debate, it's dialectic. There's like a set of questions and answers. It's fun. And if you do a dialectic on beauty or justice, which you're interested in anyway, don't you want to experience ultimate beauty? Don't you want to see the justice of reality? Of course you do. And if you talk about it through the dialectic, you'll find yourself awakening to an experience of it. So you get to go to the party too. You get to see what happens when you die. Hopefully lots of times, because, you know, you're not dead. You're just experiencing the true nature of reality as eternity. So it's fun. And it's the meaning of life. Because then you get the idea of Hercules, which is someone who has his state of mind is here and being. His functioning is to help people through the dialectic to surface their false beliefs they don't even know they have, and also develop their own understanding, so you can understand your beliefs or you can understand being, reality. So that's the ideal functioning in the physical world, or Hades, which is the mythology representing the physical world where we play out our problems. So he's both in Hades, helping people through the dialectic solve their problems or reach their excellence, while his state of mind is in heaven. Which means if you've got a state of mind here and an understanding and functioning operating here, that means that that's not the self. Something has to have that state of mind, and something has to be doing that functioning in the physical world, meaning you're also the self. You recognize yourself as transcending, being and becoming. It's the cause of the logos that you could experience all at once in enlightenment. It's the cause of the principles of the logos that play out in the physical world. How old am I? Oh, a number. Some number. Some old number. I'll have to email my accountant. He does numbers. So that's the ideal hero. That's Hercules. Knowing the self or recognizing the self while experiencing mind as pure being while not identifying with it, and functioning ideally in the physical world of becoming. That's Hercules, and that's why, well, that's our theory as to why he is considered the greatest hero. Hey, welcome, Sus. Let me finish this chat with Pally, and I'll check in with your chat. Because, here we go, where is it? Here you go, Homer, the guy who was like 1,000 years before even Socrates or more, offered a prize for the people who could say why the greatest hero, Hercules, is at the same time in Hades and also in heaven. So that was our theory. And then we have the second hero on the table, which is Achilles, who represents the personal pathologos. Homer might not even exist. Yeah, maybe he didn't. But the good thing is we do have the Iliad and Odyssey still. So we have the Iliad, and now we have the Balboa translation, the only translation that's actually real. Why? Because your own false beliefs can get in the way from seeing what's there. So all of the past translators have had false beliefs blocking their actual translations of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I don't know if the Odyssey has been finished its translation, but we do have the Iliad. And in the Iliad, we see Achilles, the absolute worst person with the worst pathologos, which is a personal pathologos intertwined with a core belief about God. Achilles believed that he was favored by Zeus and that justice would vindicate whatever his plans were. Just like everyone thinks that their way of being is the right one, and they are the chosen people, and their religion is the right one. And whenever I go out to play music, I go past these fucking god botherers, the stupidest people you've ever seen, with these microphones competing with my beautiful music, saying, Jesus is right. I agree with all of my dumb beliefs I have never reflected on. I've never read the Bible properly. I've never examined or read this book, but I agree with all of the beliefs from my family. In other words, God picked me to be the chosen one. That's Achilles. He represents that in the highest sense. And so here we have, to believe one is honored, living under the influence of God's justice, gives the believer the voice to make prophetic claims. If justice vindicates injustice, belief, the God that justifies the action is equally unjust. Therefore, that's no God at all. If your God vindicates belief or injustice, your God is unjust, and that's not a God, my friend. Equally so, the heroes in your tradition can't be heroic if they claim belief. I agree with all my beliefs. Yeah, you and everyone else, pal. That's not what it means to be a hero. A hero has to specifically, like Achilles do, go through the dialectic of philosophical midwifery and dream analysis, because your dreams are messages on how to do this, to uncover your unsuspected pathologos beliefs and beliefs about the nature of reality and the divine, surface them, examine them, purify the full false ones, freeing yourself up from your injustice, to go on to come to your own decision about what God is that is consistent with an understanding of the principles of reality itself. Don't just get the God shoved down your throat when you're a baby. Make your own. Make your own that's consistent with the principles of metaphysics that we're learning. Stoicism or modern philosophy or all of the other philosophers on YouTube draw a line here. Why? They're in the tradition of Aristotle, the Romans. That's Stoicism. If you are reading the Balboa translations of Plato, you can be here. True theology, true metaphysics, giving you what you need to reach true wisdom. And of course, if you're reading the works of Pierre Grimes, like we're doing right here, you can be Socratic, which is the purpose. Of course, you can't be doing that unless you're also doing midwifery and dream analysis, so that's the game. Always true for everyone. Taking guesses. No, I made a funny joke about my age being a number, and then we moved on to something more meaningful. Let me catch up. Ideal woman. Are you announcing yourself as you... Is this how you announce yourself as you enter the room, sus? Do you shout, ideal woman? I'm a lurk here and entire... Hey, I saw that you subscribed to my music stream. You didn't miss much. My first stream was a disaster. I'm still getting used to the equipment. But I am exhausted because I played music all last night. But I want to do a music stream anyway if you're around after this one. I shouldn't, because I'm a wreck when I'm tired trying to play music, but I want to do it. I want to get into a habit of doing it. No guessing of ages. Not interested in that. Gossip. It's hard enough having to deal with gossip questions playing music. How long you been playing music? I'm experimenting with different because I get that one a lot. That's a number question. I don't want to go into time and numbers. Fuck that. So I've been experimenting with different answers. So I say, oh, it's not about time. It's about seeing the patterns of music as they play out. Of course, I haven't had much success with that yet, but trying to find the right way in. Because the whole point of playing music is to participate in the logos that exists in harmony of music as a way of waking people up to the fact that we live in an understandable reality, and that understanding is here so you can do what you're born for, understand the patterns of your problems, and use that freedom from your problems to understand the patterns itself. Experience knowledge, and then the self. So, trying to facilitate that through, well, everything I do, really. But again, yeah, I'm not super successful, but I'm getting better, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how successful I am at it, but it's what we're here for, so I might as well tell the truth. So, those are our... Whoops. So those are our characters on the table. We've got Hercules and Achilles, and now hopefully we're up to the ideal woman, Penelope. Are you ready? So I'm going to grab myself a drink from the fridge, and I will be right back, and we'll continue to read. Bring up our characters. Here's Jesus.
Jesus sounds like this. I'm Jesus.
Then we have Socrates.
I'm Socrates. Rah, 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 rah. We know the self.
Okay, no, we're not doing that. Okay, so here's where we are. To believe one is honored living under the influence of their God's justice gives the believer the voice to make a prophetic claim. If justice vindicates an injustice, the God that justifies the action is equally unjust. Surely we would quickly add that such a view of God is no God at all. Nor can the hero be heroic. For no God would abandon the just, nor would the just feel abandoned by their God. As I consider the enormity of what you said, Socrates, I would appreciate hearing something from Homer that might support this theological and ethical claim. Theological means about the study of the divine. And what we understand is not literal dudes and clouds. That's barbarianism. It's a personification or metaphor to represent the aspects of metaphysics, which is the study of being. Ethical, meaning you have a moral obligation to do it. If you recognize that the root cause of human problems are unsuspected false beliefs, then you have an ethical responsibility to remove your own injustice, which includes your false beliefs about God, through philosophical midwifery, dream analysis, and philosophy, learning this stuff. To remove your own injustice that you inflict on yourself and others in this lifetime and beyond. So, Jesus wants to hear about Homer.
Imagine people changing their positions and improving for the better.
So we can change our positions and improve for the better. Socrates. That is a fair request, Jesus. Actually, we read this. I've gone through this. All right, let's keep going from here anyway. That's a fair request. I'm not word perfect on what you need to hear. However, I will share with you my understanding of it. Achilles said that the justice of Zeus honored him, and he believed that this would sustain him through the closing act of the war. He said he would be safe by his black ship as the fury of Hector was unleashed. Achilles believed that justice would sustain him, while Hector's Trojan forces would crush the Achaeans. The Achaeans is a fancy word for the Greeks who were fighting the Trojans. Hector was a mighty hero, could only really be defeated by Achilles. Achilles was sitting out because he was butthurt because his general stole his wife. And he was going to send his... Actually, you'll hear the rest of it. Are you trying to sound like Socrates? I don't have to try. It's just my natural voice. My regular voice I put on so normies don't get freaked out by the wisdom of my voice. But yeah, that's Socrates talking, and then there's Jesus talking, and they come up like this. Whoa, 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 whoa. Achilles believed that he foresaw that Hector would break off his final attack, and that would allow him to sail back to his homeland Ithaca. Clearly, Achilles' idea of justice and that of Zeus are intertwined. Your remarks force me to ask why Homer wrote the Odyssey. He has two different kinds of heroes, one Achilles and the other Odysseus. You have shown Achilles had to solve his problem before he could function heroically. But what of Odysseus' problem? Is there some bond that links them? For that, Jesus, we have to return to those discussions I have had with my circle of sages, as I call them. Shall I review Palmedes' role in these talks about Homer? He did play a major role in understanding that drama. That last should fill in the gaps in our talk. I know little about him. Is it possible that he has played a decisive role in all of this? Yes! Yes! His role is central, but in a curious way. To understand his role, we need to discuss Penelope!
Making ice cream is a good and courageous thing.
What? You're drunk.
Is this chat full of dumb cons?
The Oracle's drunk as well. Penelope, the wife of Odysseus. No easy task lies ahead of us, because that means we have to discuss the journey of Odysseus. I would like that, and in return, I'll share with you a little bit of something I have. How about the meaning behind the Gnostic Gospel of John? Ooh. I look forward to that exchange. To open up the meaning of Homer often requires discussing principles of our philosophy. If we can review a few of them, it will help us share the meaning behind these works. How can I refuse such an offer as this? You
Made my day!
and I am sure it will bring a smile along with it. So we left last time. Bring a smile as we go on the journey that Odysseus goes on to understand what makes him different from Achilles, because Achilles was the subject of the Iliad. Why did he do a sequel with the Odyssey? What's Odysseus got to do with anything? And how come Penelope plays a central role? So let's go on that journey. And my drink's empty. So I'm just going to quickly grab a drink. I'll be right back. Okay, Socrates. The point of departure will be a truth that extends to all living things that possess mind. Consider, after victory comes the inevitable counterattack. Another reason why you have to be doing midwifery as well. Any insight you get through understanding or knowledge will be faced with a counterattack by your problem. Which is, again, a kind of justice, because otherwise, without that, you wouldn't have what you need to learn what you're here to learn. You could just have insights and understanding and keep going up. Therefore, the counterattack is a kind of balance to give you your problem, which is the reason you've been reincarnated in the first place. You've identified with something false that you're here to surface and, well, purify. So the counterattack, something we can expect. And where are my dudes? Yeah. After victory comes the inevitable counterattack. With the victory comes a new self-image. That's in stark contrast with the older image. That's key. New self-image. Contrast with the older one. The older has been crafted from the pathologos. See? Black and white. Explaining the nature of human problems in black and white. This book bangs. The older self-image has been crafted from the pathologos and core beliefs. It is like a private and personal family clan religion. There you go. The power it possesses is immense and survives human death in the land of Hades. What's the cause of human problems? False image of the self, crafted from your pathologos and core beliefs, which is a kind of private and personal religion, identified with the family clan, just like all religion is just that, with a religious clan. And God says so too.
We definitely are not born with a starter kit of beliefs, buddy. Religion.
Okay. Goes on to say religion is crammed down your throat. So, and the power it has survives human death and into the land of Hades. In other words, reincarnation. So you better do your work on your pathologos, otherwise it will cause a shitty reincarnation next time. And if you're fortunate enough to be born with the kind of privilege compared to everyone else in the world where you've come across this stream and you've heard about the meaning of life and the pathologos, then, well, you must have done something good in previous lives to have this opportunity. Don't waste it.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
You're a wizard hat.
You're a wizard hat. You're a wizard hat. To see this, it is possible to forge ahead with the urge to bring integrity into every act. Consider as Odysseus entered Ithaca and the drama played out. It is possible to see that his mode of being differed from his past. Interesting. So he had changed. He waits for the proper occasion to show himself as the one who possesses the integrity of what it is to be truly a man. There may be others called wise, but he stands half again wiser than them all. Homer wants to present the wise as having problems and to show what it takes for the wise to overcome them. In other words, you can have wisdom, you can have, so far the model of wisdom we've been building is this: an insight or an experience of being, separating the soul from the body, or turning around your mind to see itself, along with some understanding of that experience, understanding and knowledge of that. But that's a different activity from removing these puppies, removing your beliefs and images. Two different things. So even the wise can have problems, and as we're saying, these problems survive your death, and you bring it with you to create the problems in your next life. So Homer needed to show that even wisdom, and of course we know that because we have anime and we have the anime tropes of the wise person with problems still. What was Goku's teacher and Naruto's teacher and most other anime main characters' teachers? Pervy Sage. The Pervy Sage. Whether it's Master Roshi or what's the name of Naruto's Pervy Sage? I should know this. Shouldn't be allowed on Twitch without knowing. Naruto Pervy Sage name. Jariah. He's actually called Pervy Sage. Does Socrates know Jesus is like tied to religion in the book? Yeah, so in the book that we're reading, you could say that Socrates represents understanding and Jesus represents belief. And so far through the book, we've looked at the different, because everyone has a different level of understanding and knowledge, or everyone has a certain vision level and a certain level of understanding, and everyone has a certain problem. So Mark, Matthew, Luke, John, Paul, the 5 big names in the New Testament, they're all people with problems and a level of development. So what we've been doing is been looking at how they all function differently. And of course, there are a bunch of other gospels that we've discovered, the Gnostic gospels that were uncovered in Egypt in the 60s, that have different people who have different level of insight and different problem. I don't think real Socrates would come to an agreement with Jesus. Oh, you don't know Socrates then. See, the thing about understanding is it's true. It's always true. That's the dialectic. Dialectic is stages of questions that you can reach, that you can follow, that will always come to understanding. It's not debate. This is the difficulty. We're learning real philosophy here, and everywhere else you're not going to get real philosophy. If you look at philosophy on other channels or on YouTube and stuff, they do this thing called debate, which is fucked. All debate is, I have my beliefs, you have your beliefs, let's fight. That's stupid, because no one gives a shit about beliefs unless you can manipulate people to grift them. So what Socrates does is he has the dialectic, so he can start with one question. Hey, what about this? What does punishment do? Does punishment create a suffering? Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Next step, okay, if it creates a suffering, does that remove freedom? I'm not sure. Okay, you're not sure there? Then we'll break it down. Okay, let's have an example. If you're doing geometry and you were being spanked with a ruler, or you're being put in a corner as punishment, do you have limited freedom? Now I'm with you. So every step you're together. So one person asks the questions, they're the dialectician, and the other person gives the answers. And you move step by step together. Okay, so no freedom. By the way, if you're lacking freedom, can you freely reflect on the cause of the mistake you made? No, you can't. If you don't reflect on the cause of the mistake you made, will you be able to remove the problem? No, you won't. Therefore, you'll continue to repeat the problem. Yes. Therefore, punishment is never good. As you continue to repeat the problem, you don't learn. So that's step by step following of the dialectic to truth and understanding together. It's a win-win-win. Debates are like, I believe punishment is good sometimes. I don't. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck you. Fuck me. Fuck you. That's debate. It's stupid. That's why we still have Nazis. We still have war. We still have capitalism. These are fucking stupid systems that always hurt everyone. And if we've got philosophers, we shouldn't have them. That's why debates are stupid and modern philosophers aren't philosophers. They're not helping anything. Socrates isn't a modern philosopher. He's up here. Plato was his student here. Aristotle is what modern philosophy is based on, materialism or stoicism. Down here. This is debate. This is images, beliefs, and opinions. They lack the understanding of the logos needed to solve problems, and they lack that dialectic, same understanding, same dialectic needed to understand the metaphysical world of being, which is the preparation to experience it for yourself. And of course, you need to put the two together to understand the conditions and causes of that to go on and reach Socrates' level, the self. That's our purpose, to know the self. So yeah, so long as you're up for it, so long as you're genuinely interested, then you can go all the way. But here's the thing. As you are progressing along the dialectic step by step to truth, there will come a point where you get butthurt. You'll start acting like a little bitch. You'll start saying, well, I don't like that conclusion, or I don't like your tone. Or you'll go on a tangent. Or you'll forget the conclusions you make, the counter-attacks. You've come to a conclusion, but now you're undermining yourself. Surely I can't know the meaning of life, because my dad didn't, and he's the bestest dad. My preacher didn't. Who am I to be able to understand the meaning of life so simply as what is on the board? Kind of looks like a penis on the board. Fair enough. I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. So, in other words, as we follow along with the Logos, you will face the block caused by your false beliefs, and it's only a block specifically because it blocks the Logos. So Socrates can talk to anyone, including Jesus. But there'll come a point where Jesus will hit his block. Because Socrates is up here. He's already done it. He's gone through the Logos. He's mastered the Logos. He's not reincarnating. He said as much in the Phaedo. His last day before he died, he said, hey, if you're a true philosopher, you'll race to where I am. I'm not coming back. I've done my work. Why would I reincarnate back into Hades? I've got a better journey. Meet me where I am with fellow gods, spirits, and better men than you find here who've completed their work here, who are going to be fellow adventurers, travelers, and guides on a greater journey beyond. So in other words, the dialectic is a win-win. Everyone wins. The only thing is, depending on your level of maturity and your level of work that you've done on removing your own beliefs, there'll be a stage where you will hit your block. You'll hit your pathologos. That's why you have to do midwifery on removing your problems, along with the logos of the dialectic on truth. You gotta have both. And that's the idea of counterattack, same thing. So yeah, talk to anyone. Now, the trick is, if you can find yourself a friend or a partner who is genuine and has a good heart and a good head, because you can do this every second of the day. Because you're only really talking about, well, one of three things. You're either talking about your highest vision and understanding of reality or the self, what you want, your highest goals. You're talking about your problems that you are frustrated about or want to remove, or you're distracted. Gossip. Which is itself just a reflection of your problem. So you're only really ever talking about your problem or your goal. And if you can recognize that, then you can have conversations like this every minute of the day. So that's the platform that the next president should run on. A dialectician and midwife in every house for 2026. Pardon me. So, Homer wants to present the wise, as always, as having problems, just like Jiraiya and Master Roshi, the pervy sage, or the drunken sage, or the gambling. What's the female Hokage? What's her name? Female Hokage of Leaf Village. Tsunade. So Tsunade was a Hokage who had a gambling problem. So, in other words, it's quite well known in, especially in Eastern mythology and literature, that having wisdom doesn't mean you don't have problems. That's why you got to do both. And of course, Homer knew that as well. I would like to see that more fully, says Jesus. I do like what you have said, and it has moved me deeply, but for all that, I would like to know more about what you have discovered in these discussions. It will take us several steps, but I know with your own sincerity, we will be able to share what was shared with me. See? So long as you have your own sincerity, then you can do the dialectic. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
So what's the dialectic? You follow along several steps, which means you can practice them. Call your friend and say, hey, shout me a coffee. What? Why am I buying you a coffee? You're calling me because I'm going to share with you several steps that I've been learning on this stream with this super handsome streamer that I've come across on Twitch and YouTube. And I'm going to practice these several steps that can lead you to insight, so long as you are sincere. So long as you're sincere. In other words, because it's truth and dialectic, you can remember the steps. You can even make your own mythological story, make your own Spider-Man comic to help you remember the steps that you can follow with anyone so long as they're sincere, to mutual truth and understanding that benefits everyone.
They're secretly turned on by it.
And your friend will be secretly turned on by it, I promise. I mean, Emma promises. See, which is just what I've been describing to you, Pally. Steps with sincerity. And so what happens? Hey, we will be able to share with others what was shared with you in this book. See, that's why any philosopher who does debate ain't no philosopher, buddy. They're Aristotelian. So the word for that is philodoxia. They're lovers of opinion. Modern philosophers are philodoxias, not philosophers. They're lovers of opinions. Let me say at first that to achieve the victory, the old had to be submerged. With the victory, the old resurfaces and plagues the hero unless it is effectively dealt with. There's the principle. So, as you talk with your friend, you have to avoid his problem or bury his problem or sidestep his problem. Let's say you recognize an aspect of his problem. Hey, by the way, everyone else can see Achilles' problem. Everyone knows that they're going to lose the war if Achilles doesn't join the fight. Everyone knows that Achilles is being a little bitch. Everyone knows that he's a dick and he's the strongest dick in the world, so he can no one can do anything about it. In other words, other people can see your problem. Doesn't matter. The dialectic is to ask you a series steps of questions so you can see your problem for yourself. Now, when I say other people can see your problem, they can't see the entirety of it, of course. They can see aspects of it. And of course, their vision will be limited by their own problem as well. But it's much easier for other people to recognize others in a problem, because it's your blind spot. So let's say you know that your friend's a bit of a sexist. While you're going through these steps that you've been learning here over coffee, and he's shouting because he's benefiting your tummy with the coffee, and you can benefit his soul with the dialectic. You might want to avoid mentioning women if he's a sexist. In other words, to achieve the victory of the conversation, the false beliefs have to be submerged, sidestepped, avoided. But once he reaches a victory, because with greater understanding and insight into the nature of self and reality, your old false beliefs are they're not gonna fit, are they? Kind of both. So with the victory, the old resurfaces and plagues our hero until it's effectively dealt with. Once again, the principle that you have to be doing two things: the step-by-step reasoned reflection on the nature and causes of your problem, or any problem, political problem, you name it, problem, human problem, or okay, let me say that again. Step-by-step reasoned reflection on truth, as well as dealing with your own personal, and that truth can be the truth of, how to solve problems in the world, but also this particular kind of problem of your own self-image and blind spot, and all pathologos, really. It will resurface because it needs to be dealt with. Socrates. Are all the troubles Odysseus faces with his crew before his journey into the house of Hades? Does he go to Hades? It's been so long since I read this book, I don't remember it. So, Odysseus, before his journey into the house of Hades, are manifestations of these very problems. Right. To go home to Ithaca means to return as the hero without those core beliefs that undermine the self. In other words,
You're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. Because if you're familiar with the hero's journey, the hero's tale, that circle that the hero has to follow, it finishes with a return home. Actually, I could pull it up. No, okay, you're probably familiar with it. Most animes are so self-referential that they talk about it. There's I think a couple of different Rick and Morty episodes where they specifically talk the whole episode about the hero's journey circle. It's obvious, like it's the one that all the, it's the handbook that screenwriters read. A Hero of 1,000 Faces, and the hero's journey. So at the end of the hero's journey, they return home with the new magical power. But if this is the archetype here, to return home means to after having descended into the house of Hades, which is where you face your problems, your physical world existence. To return home is to return as a hero means to be free of those beliefs that undermine the self. So the dragon you slay is the pathologic. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good. Before, Before he entered the house of Hades, he had to recall vividly the tragedy of the Trojan War to the noble audience of the Phaeacians. They in turn shared with Odysseus the meaning of the war and all else. He was told that all that he went through was the unfoldment of the will of Zeus. Zeus designed the war as a model of man. That's key. Entering the house of Hades, Odysseus saw that all of whatever a soul identified with has vast power that continues until it plays itself out. That's your life. And the false image of yourself, the ego, it'll dissipate. Your job is to free yourself from it. He saw the ghost of Achilles, still identified with being a warrior, and he saw the image would spin itself out until there was no longer any power left to propel it. So, Achilles supposedly has gone through midwifery and dream analysis to become free of his problem, become a great hero. But there is still the ghost. What does that mean? And what does it mean that there's a ghost that spins itself out until it loses its power? I don't know, but that's a question that we are going to carry as we continue. Sounds significant. Where are my dudes? What is this? Oh, here's maybe this is the question. This is the answer, maybe. What is this but the power of the pathologos and core beliefs that shape the soul of man? Upon returning to Ithaca, his Ithaca is the place. Upon returning to Ithaca, his wife Penelope tests him before she will share her bed and life with him. So here's what we're after. We're after the ideal woman. If Penelope is the one that the gods praise, what can we learn about this functioning of this woman? Men and women are different, clearly. Even today we're talking about how the privilege that I don't have to worry about how I look being exhausted after a night out playing music, compared to, the standards that women have. And I'm not going to get into it now, but of course, so many difficulties. And different qualities of, well, that's the question. What are the samenesses and what are the differences? And earlier in the text, we talked about the ideal relationship, love and logos, where you explore samenesses and differences. Together. So we want to learn about the ideal woman and the difficulties that women face in the world. And she is testing this dude before she will share her bed with him and share his life with him. How important is it for women to test men before this? Might be a central or a key idea that would be involved in being the ideal woman. Not falling for men's bullshit and accepting anyone less than heroic, truly heroic. And if you're a woman, you don't need me to tell you that. Where's the dude? Since Odysseus had feigned illness to avoid the war, she wanted to be sure he did not return with another false image. Oh, interesting. Is the man that you are sharing your bed and life with someone who is without a false image that he is going to be loyal to greater than you and the Logos? She loved that man who could refuse to... She loved the man who could refuse to right a wrong that he knew was frivolous. What? So she tested him. He grew in stature. Her strategies overcame the number and power of her ill-fated suitors. Oh, okay. So in other words, I guess what we would call picking your battles. Are you going to get all butthurt over something frivolous? Even if you're right? Being right at the right time, about the right thing, we might say. Yeah. Frivolous things can distract people. And her strategies overcome her ill-fated suitors. So what we would call today, simps. Penelope was able to overcome the weirdo simps. Overcame the number and power of her simpies. I don't know. I'm not 100% up to date with what the word means, but so maybe I'm using that word wrong. Maybe it's a derogatory word. I don't even know. But ill-fated suitors, people who wanted to be her man. She is heroic without entering the battle. Interesting. She presents us with a new image of a hero that reaches furthermost in life's struggle to be oneself. New image of a hero. Doesn't even have to go into battle. Furthermost in life's struggle to be oneself. She uses her mind creatively to overcome seemingly impossible odds and difficulties. In her, we see the feminine Hercules. Interesting. So maybe we can carry with us these differences along with the sameness of our reflection on Hercules that we have been doing. So still, I guess the sameness might be still the self, still state of mind, still good functioning, but using the mind creatively to overcome these kinds of difficulties, and also to do so without actually having to enter the battle and being oneself the whole way. And also testing men. Testing who is worthy of her bed and life. Worthy of her life isn't worthy of spending her life with. Interesting. Feminine Hercules. Penelope. Socrates, I am seeing a new kind of sage. A new kind of holiness. And for that, I am very grateful. You say that Odysseus feigned illness to avoid combat. Did you learn that from Homer? or from any of your discussions here in heaven? No, it is not from Homer, but from the sage Palamedes. He is one of those who can successfully confront and turn around those who refuse to meet their destiny. Ah. So, this sounds like a very heroic way of being. Someone stuck in a problem, can you confront them and also get them to turn around, reflect on themselves again through the logos and addressing the pathologos? Those who refuse to meet their highest purpose and goal and meaning of life, their destiny. Interesting. I wonder if Penelope is doing that with Odysseus to make sure he has turned himself around, escaped his fate, and is seeking his highest functioning and purpose. That's the ideal, right? I talk about the difficulty that I've experienced personally as one of a very few in this game, and not living in California where Pierre was. In other words, if you're already into it, it's much easier to talk, and again, even then, it requires courage and it requires this heroic attitude. To go through midwifery, to be open to dream analysis, to read this kind of books, to discuss it with this kind of integrity, it's very, very rare. But the ideal would be, really, well, you might be saying that because we're quite a fair way in. We're not really talking about Christianity at the moment. We're talking about Homer. But earlier on, we talked about how modern Christians they quote Paul and the difference between Paul and Mark. That's a big difference. But again, that's a bit further back. And you can find earlier videos on YouTube if you want to go back to them. But we'll probably go over it again later. What were we saying? Refuse to meet the destiny. I forgot. What was I saying? Oh yeah. As someone who has been solo questing for a long time in this game, the ability to confront people, wake them up. It's easy to just avoid because everyone has their problem. No one wants to play this game because everyone thinks they know better. Everyone thinks they know what the self is. Everyone thinks that they know what the meaning of life is, or that they know that there is no meaning and it's whatever you make it up to be. In other words, like Socrates says in the Republic, there are no students because everyone thinks they know better. So what? Well, so everyone's a zombie. Everyone is, because you don't have the pathologos, it has you. It's a psychic parasite. It dictates your life. It keeps you chained to your problems. It keeps you stuck to your fate. It will prevent you from higher enlightenment experiences. It will cause the hell that you will experience in your next reincarnation because you're identified with the self, with that image of the self. So everyone's like that. So what do you do if you're a philosopher? How do you help anyone? Well, here we have a model of Palamedes confronting someone. Say, hey, by the way, bullshit. You wouldn't say it this way, but But hey, you know how you think you know everything? You think you know what the self is? You think that your religion is the right one? You think your parents are knowing and loving? Bull fucking shit. Wake up. Do you think your neighbor knows everything? No. Do you think their kids think that? Yep. What about the religions overseas? They're pretty kooky. What makes you think yours are different? If they're all belief, then they're all wrong. That kind of thing. Now, you wouldn't say it like that. You'd have you're right, guidance. You'd guide them in a more charming way. This is the same thing. In the same section of the Republic, Solid Geometry, where Socrates talks about the fact that there are no students and no teachers, and there are no teachers because there are no students, he talks about charm. In other words, how do you, with charm, or for women, grace, confront someone? Say, hey, by the way, this is an issue. You've got to address this. You know how you think you know X, Y, and Z? Everyone thinks that. And haven't you noticed that everyone is wrong? Well, you're wrong too. I mean, wouldn't that follow? That kind of a thing. You have a higher destiny. You have a higher purpose than to just be a foot soldier for the Jews, to be a foot soldier for the Christians killing whatever, to be a foot soldier for the capitalists, to be a foot soldier. You've got a better destiny. You can do it. So that's the ideal. Especially at this part of history where, well, there aren't a lot of philosophers out there. So this is a big one. How do you successfully confront someone and successfully turn them around so that they can reach their fullest potential and overcome their own suffering and injustice? In other words, providence. How do you care for people properly? It's a big one. I think earlier in the stream today, I was talking about how difficult it is. Even with a guitar, it's difficult. Because music and the harmony of music can bring people in. The harmony of the notes and the beauty and simplicity of the song as a whole. So the Aphrodite and Apollo, of course, beauty and reason, or the beauty of the whole and the rationality of the parts, or the harmony of the parts. Because it's Aphrodite and Apollo that work together to reach Hermes, and Hermes represents the dialectic. That's the art we're all here to learn. That's the meaning of life for everyone. Everyone who has evolved through language and self-reflection. Logos and ousia. Because that's what you awaken. You awaken ousia through the dialectic, and the dialectic is the participation of, or the activity of, the logos. So language and self-reflection. Logos and ousia. If you've evolved to that level, so it's not just for humans, anyone in any dimension, in any multiverse who's evolved to the level of ousia and logos, it's your job to master the other dialectic. In doing so, you'll surface your problems as well, so it's a win-win. But how do you tell people that? That's a big one for me anyway. And how do you tell people that and still keep your head on your shoulders? Because, as famously Pierre Grimes said to the Black Panthers in the 60s, challenging the racist white Americans' way of being that involved treating black Americans as subhuman. Hey, you think you're the most hated people? At least you have each other. Yeah, you're hated because you challenge the way of being of the white American. And it's good to challenge that way of being because it's fucked. But you're also hated. I'm a philosopher. I challenge everyone's way of being. At least you guys have each other. So that's the issue. It's the best thing. It's the most important thing. It's what we're all here to do. But because of this period of history, it's the most hated. Because the pathologos is in opposition to the logos. That's why it's a problem. So this is I'm repeating myself, but who cares? For me, this is a big deal. How do you successfully confront people and turn them around? But in saying that, I've seen people like the people who live on my soundboard. They talk to callers or chatters and stuff, and confront them in their ignorant way of being, and challenge them to turn around and function in a higher way. So there are people like that out there. Anyway, Palmades. Oh, and Penelope seems to be doing a similar thing, maybe. Can we put the two together? Where's our character? Here they are. He is one of Palmades. He is a sage. Sage. We want to be savages to sages. So those zombies are the savages, and we want to be a sage. He's a sage who can successfully confront and turn around those who refuse to meet their destiny. I just remembered something. Let me see. I think I've missed it. Hang on. All right, so, he is able to find insightful ways to bring a reversal by cutting through their defenses in simple and dramatic ways. Okay, we want to find this. So, So everything I said about my experience, if you are a follower of the channel, likely you're in the same boat. There aren't a we don't have the 50,000 viewers that Hassan Piker and Asmongold have. Therefore, you're probably facing a similar situation. There aren't a lot of us, meaning we need to find a way of being a sage in the world and functioning like Hercules, functioning ideally in the physical world of becoming through the dialectic to help people turn around on their beliefs and again reach their highest destiny and purpose. It would be a lot easier if we were born in a period of history where this has been acknowledged and recognized. Or maybe an alternative timeline where we didn't kill Socrates, the 207 people or whatever. How many people? How many people voted to kill Socrates? Okay, so 280 voted to find him guilty, while 221 voted to acquit. So, in an ultimate timeline where how many people needed to vote to acquit Socrates? Right, so he needed to get 251 votes to acquit, and he had so 30 more people. So, welcome, bonsoir, Genevieve. Bonsoir. Did I say that right? Accents on other countries in an Australian accent always sounds terrible. Bonsoir. Konnichiwa. Doesn't sound very elegant. So, in an ultimate timeline where 30 people voted along with the other 221 instead of the 280 voting to kill Socrates, those 30 changed their mind and they voted to acquit him. We could have had a culture. Yes. Don't know what you're saying yes to, but I'm glad that you agree. Then we would be living in a world where everyone would be appreciating the logos. Everyone would be doing midwifery every day. And instead of for every liquor shop and gun store in the world, it would actually have been a philosophical midwifery store and philosophy shop. Australian accent gets brownie points no matter what. No way I said that right. No way I said bonsoir right. This is bonsoir or something, right? You can't say it in an Australian accent. Hey, bonsoir, mate. Je m'appelle Jed. Comme si, comme ça. Sounds terrible. Doesn't sound very elegant or romantic. Right, yeah, so anyway, so what am I saying? I'm saying that you all probably will recognize the significance of this puzzle. How do we, as people who are philosophers and not recognized or appreciated, how do we confront and value the way we should? It's right enough to know you tried and it makes sense. Oh, I appreciate it. How do we ourselves find insightful ways to bring about a reversal of people's way of being and reflection by cutting through their defenses in simple and dramatic ways? How do we turn people around? The sage Palmades did this when Odysseus
Feigned illness to avoid the expedition to Troy.
So, Palmades did this when Odysseus feigned illness to avoid the expedition to Troy. What did he do? Did he find a simple and dramatic way of helping Odysseus reflect on his way of being, cut through his pathologos defenses, to help him realize he was stuck in a problem and he would not be able to meet his highest goal and destiny unless he addressed his problem? Did Palmades do that? Interesting. Well, good for him then. What we want to do. Which would be very Herculean of us, right? Because, as we said of Hercules, he's functioning most ideally in the physical world through the dialectic. And as far as I'm aware, there's only one Hercules. Maybe he can have a lovely coffee with Achilles and Penelope, but other than those two people, he's got to deal with, the shades, the shadows. Human beings identified with their shadow, with their pathologos. So, to be creative and insightful in how we turn around would make us very Herculean. Or, if you're a lady, Penelopean. Because she's the feminine Hercules. Was that the word? Is that the word? Penelope was, yes, the feminine Hercules. There we go. Feminine Hercules, Penelope. Yep. That's no small feat, says Jesus. Like me, I've got big feet. And you know what that means? Wait. Sorry. Let me do the dramatic sting again. Damn it. Yes. Jesus says, hey, that's no small feat. And I said the joke, like me, because I've got big feet. And you know what that means? Dramatic zoom. It's a new addition to the stream. That's no small feat, I would say. I will look into that very thing. Surely his art is needed in many places and with many people. What were we just talking about? Hooray for this book. It bangs so fucking hard. Yes. This art. To do what? To insightfully and dramatically and simply and turn people around. It is needed in many places, including Australia. I can see and appreciate these discussions that you had with these sages. I would like to return to those Gnostic texts that were recently discovered in Egypt. Hey, for our friend Pally in the chat. The Gnostic texts that were, they're called Gnostic because they speak more about knowing and understanding rather than Paul's bullshit about belief and faith. Fuck that. They were buried by the church, of course, because, you know, you don't want people thinking for themselves if you want to start a brainwashing death cult. So the Gnostic texts that were recently rediscovered in Egypt, I mentioned them, and now I would like to see if they might function in the sage circle you have mentioned, or whether they are members of my circle. Socrates. Egypt would be the place where treasures are likely to be found. They were ancient when the Hellenes were not, and they continued when we crumbled under the cruel forces of history. I do hope there will be another cave discovered filled with the treasures of our people, since so much has been lost and destroyed by irrational forces. Yes. So, now we are going to go on the Gnostic secret Gospel of John, the Gnostic authors. So just as the church killed the philosophers and burnt the libraries, including all of these philosophical treasures, so too did they bury these other Gnostic texts. Same old fucking shit. The fascists who want people to be believers and not understanders burn books and destroy treasures and fuck up the world. Not hard to see, because once again we can see quite clearly belief is the cause of human problems, and tyranny is just the projection of your personal beliefs onto others through saying that you get to do so because you got the money or the power or you speak for God. It's always the same. Beliefs cause problem, understanding solves it. That's the Jesus and Socrates dynamic of this book and what we're here to do. And we need to help people see that in a charming way like Parmenides. How do we cut through and help people to see that? When people will savagely fight for their own ignorance, that's the difficulty. They're afraid of losing the self because they don't think, oh, that's a good theory. I'm going to carry this Christian theory as long with this Buddhist one and this Taoist one and see what pans out. Nope, I am Christian. It's the right one. Well, it's just a theory, right? You don't know yet. Fuck you. It's always going to be right, and I'm never going to change. That's the level of zombie-like ignorance or savagery or barbarism that we are at our stage of development, of course. But lucky for us, we have this book, someone who has gone through this process like Socrates, freed himself, and has done us the tremendous benefit of writing it all down so we can have fun reading it together and become Herculean ourselves, like Parmenides, like Achilles, and like the female Hercules, Penelope. So I hope there's more about Penelope as we continue to read, but we've already got a lovely list of qualities about Penelope that we can wonder about and carry with us as we seek to be heroes ourselves for ourselves. Heroes of the self ourselves. And hey, hopefully we'll hear more about this Palmides guy too, because, you know, don't we want to help people join the game? It sure would be more fun if there was more people to share this quest with.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
I am Alamos 55. The change's evolution is in process. It never ends. Oh, I don't know what that means. But I'm glad that you're on the team. The team of logos. The team of the heroes. And of course, this is the we see as these in these archetypes, the archetype of the hero's journey, because as Hercules represents the ideal person, Achilles represents the ideal journey from even the worst through the logos, the dialectic, midwifery, dream analysis to become the greatest hero. And we also see it presented with Penelope and even this Palmides fellow. So we've got a lot to work with, even in our small group. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you want to check out my music stream, I'm streaming on Twitch, maybe YouTube later on as well. But Jed Phoenix Music is the Twitch handle if you want to check that out. And if you're on the Discord, I will send a notification when the music goes live. If you want to hang out, listen to music, and talk about philosophy and things, I appreciate it. Again, Twitch, YouTube, follow, like, subscribe, all that. Discord link below. There's a link to the PDF below as well. And if you do want to support the channel, it is very greatly appreciated. There's a link left as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you in the next button. Press the button. See you in the next one.